Guys, this is Bhankai reporting live from the Nexus, and today we're doing something super different. Super different. So different, in fact, that I'll tell you right off the bat to get your keyboard out and get to typing in the comments. Please tell me if you think this video is a shit idea, because these things take time to make, and I could have been playing Hawken in the time I'm writing the script, or sifting through the endless gameplay footage, catching cobwebs on my PS4 hard drive. In any case, there's no point in me making content you guys don't want to watch. But today I'll be giving in detail my thoughts on Santa Monica's God of War on the PS4. Then I'll delve into whether the upcoming sequel should continue to incorporate RPG elements and so on, which makes the fourth installment unique to its predecessors. By the way, if you're a fan of unique insights on gaming and gaming culture, maybe you just like seeing some cool gameplay footage from time to time, then you should definitely consider subscribing and commit to the Nexus, because let's be honest guys, it's not like I have anything better to do with my life. Just saying. Alright, without further ado, let's get on this journey with Kratos, the God of War, aka the world's best father. And I mean it, guys. So, God of War sees Kratos many years after he goes on a god-killing campaign. We see the man living in a home in the middle of nowhere with a small boy, and together they are carrying the ashes of his wife and great love, Faye. This boy is Kratos' own son and his great companion, who accompanies him on a perilous journey which started out as their sincere wish to carry out Faye's final wishes, a wish that at first seems simple enough: to carry and scatter her ashes from the highest peak in all the realms. The opening scene of Kratos chopping down the tree to build a pyre on which to burn the body of his deceased wife already proved to me that this work done by Santa Monica Studio would be a far more thoughtful and intimate approach than the previous titles. To be honest, the lack of depth in this game's predecessors is what kept me away from them. I've always admired the series, don't get me wrong, but the playstyle was never my cup of tea, and the story lacking the great depth and nuance present in this current iteration of the God of War series gave me zero reasons to invest in the first titles. Other titles had a story and such, but this one just brings it all together and humanizes it in a way that I believe can be digested by anyone. I hope that makes sense, and if not, then I don't know, I guess that's too bad, guys. God of War now sees Kratos and his Atreus, a bowman and willful young boy, taking on a world of dangers and wonder. Atreus' mother's last wish evolves into them finding themselves caught in some elaborate plot being spun by gods and giants, and maybe even Atreus' mother, who is also Kratos' wife as well. Even more impressive, it sees them tackling the complications of the human heart and the obstacles we all face as mortals, or in their case, gods with human tendencies, I guess. Kratos strives for years to hide his son from their true nature, shielding him from the truth that they are gods and in some superficial sense, superior to mankind. Kratos does this in an attempt to protect his son, but his secrets bear ramifications for which he was ill-equipped. On top of the fact that Atreus becomes physically ill due to lack of knowledge of his nature and almost dies, bringing Kratos to finally confess, it also leads the boy to experience the worst teenage phase I've ever seen in a child. Truly it was puberty of godly proportions. The boy went from talking down to humans, including his own dead mother, to shooting his father with an arrow in the chest. And about the mother, she wasn't quite human, but that's another story and kind of besides the point. My point here is that to see how well the screenwriters tackled this emotional terrain throughout this narrative was impressive. I think the story was the strongest element in the game, probably due to the fact that I'm mostly a PvP kind of guy, so the gameplay, while fun, isn't exactly the reason why I signed up for this ride. Together, Kratos and Atreus take on dark elves, nightmares, and werewolf-like creatures. I forget their name, and even some of the many sons of Odin. It's good stuff, guys, good stuff. But the most engaging bits was watching them take on their roles as father and son. Those tense moments between them, they were really perfect, guys. I really loved them. But anyway, let's talk a bit about the graphics. Guys. They are breathtaking. Listen, I don't play a wide variety of games anymore, so maybe my opinion doesn't really count, but this thing is gorgeous. I know it's old at this point, but it has to be said. The game looks great. The textures, particularly on Kratos, are incredible. There are times I feel as if I'm looking at actual human skin. Like most games, it has the issues of textures on certain elements present on the screen reverting to PlayStation 1 quality, which some of you are probably too young to know or remember, but trust me, I know PlayStation 1 when I see it, guys, trust me. But overall, top-notch graphics, as I'm sure you know. Let's move on and talk a bit about the music. No, the music is well done as well. I didn't get to play much of the game with headphones, but as far as I can tell, the music complemented the deep narrative fairly well. I recall a scene where you're ascending the mountain. It's when you're inside one of those cavernous areas within the mountain, and Atreus discovers these sky lanterns that were supposedly left behind by giants. He grabs one and scribbles onto it and sets it to float away. And Kratos asks him, what did he write? And he tells Kratos he asked the giants to watch over his mother. The music complemented the dialogue and flow of the story so well in these bits. It was really video game magic, the likes of which I have not seen since my days of binge playing Final Fantasy X as a 10-year-old child. Words cannot describe what these moments in the game meant to me, guys. It was really great. And another highlight of the music and storytelling reaching a peak, in my opinion, is in the end once you reach the highest peak in all of the realms. This is where Kratos decides to remove the bandages that cover the chain marks on his lower arms, something he hid to figuratively hide himself from his son and maybe even himself. As he removes them, the music starts out heavy, haunting and thrumming, with these dark vocals resounding like an orchestra from the depths of Hades. It then morphs slowly into a culmination of strings, emotional and rising, as he declares that there is no longer anything for him to hide. Incredible, incredible storytelling, guys. If you've played it, then that's all I need to say for you to get it. If not, then you're really missing something. If only some movies and TV shows could get their shit together like this, then that would be great, guys. That would be absolutely great. I wouldn't have anything to complain about. No, let's move on to the gameplay. Let's talk the gameplay a bit. Now, this is somewhat sold as an RPG, this game, and it really isn't an RPG in my opinion, especially not in the traditional sense. You could sell this game as an action game with slight RPG elements, or you can call it an action hack and slash parading about as an RPG when it's not. You have these things that you can level up, such as your weapons, chest armors, wrist armors, waist armors, and so on. And these pieces of equipment can be further augmented with the help of items that are fitted into their sockets, granting you more strength and advantages in battle. So once you unlock Kratos' special skills with his blades of chaos and the Leviathan axe, and implement these upgrades along with the tricks Atreus begins to learn, you guys can make quite the team, and it can make for a bit of fun. The combat will actually take me into the one thing I didn't like about this game, and it's not too much of a big deal, but hear me out. What I'm talking about here, guys, is the misconception of difficulty. You see, ever since Dark Souls 1 came out, there's been parts of the gaming demographic who have become obsessed with the thoughts of games being frustratingly hard. Now, I am the biggest Dark Souls fan in life, trust me when I tell you that, but it has helped to blind gamers and developers, even developers as talented as Santa Monica, into confusing what is frustrating and with what is actually challenging. Listen, guys, I'm an avid gamer, at least I was, and ever since I came back into gaming, I decided never to play any of my games on easy or normal. You know, I go straight for the second highest difficulty at least. And if you think about it, games these days are so easy, it's as if they're targeted for brain dead chimpanzees inflicted with a learning disability. So it's not like I'm saying I'm gaming on some advanced level here, guys, but the point is, I went into God of War looking for a challenge, and what I found instead was frustration. Not many times, but twice. 2 times really stick out to me, and it was ridiculous. The dark elves in the Jotunheim Tower were a complete and utter nightmare. It was unrealistically frustrating. I almost threw my console off the top floor after dousing it in gasoline and lighting it on fire just to be sure it got the message. And if you know anything about me, I love my console very much, so that's kind of a big deal. So for the most part, I love the challenge of the game. It kept me on my toes, and after killing hordes of mythical beasts in a row on the second hardest difficulty, it really gave you a sense of accomplishment. You know, I recall over a year ago, one of my favorite YouTubers, he had said that the challenges Kratos faces on this journey makes him feel less like a god of war, even after he overcame all these obstacles. And I have to say, I have to beg to differ, guys. I mean, the high difficulty level added a sort of adrenaline rush to intense encounters, and once I defeated them, which I beat most of them on the first try, I felt like a true god of war, guys. Trust me, I was ready to go out there and find Zeus and kill him in real life. I mean, so if I had one major complaint about this game, it would be my complaint about every Souls inspired game of this generation. Please keep in mind that being frustrating to the point of making people question their own existence and sanity, that does not equate to difficult or challenging. Getting one-shotted by a foe with insurmountable health is not difficult, guys. That's just rubbish. So let's just keep it in mind that games used to be challenging because they made us think for ourselves, not because the AI looked in our general direction and then the character suddenly suffered a tremendous stroke. That's not difficulty, guys. That's just garbage. So now that I've given you my bullshit review, it's time for the big question. Should God of War revert to its old ways? Now what does this mean? I mentioned earlier that this iteration of the game is clearly Souls inspired. Well, the first releases weren't. It was far more straightforward gameplay in those games. While I haven't played any of those games in a long time, what remains fresh in my mind is that none of them had the impact on me that God of War 4 did. The new gameplay and storytelling meshed together so well and in a way that's so impactful. It would be a sad day to see them throw all of that away. A really sad day. And I very much prefer that they continue to mesh simple RPG elements into this action-adventure treat, as opposed to going back to straight button mashing where I'm just staring at a tiny character gallivanting on my screen like a madman. It just never did much for me, guys. I'm sorry, but that's enough from me. What do you guys think? Do you think the series is fine heading in this direction, or should it get an overhaul again, setting it back to the concept of its predecessors? Comment below and share your thoughts. And by the way, if you rate this video, please remember to give it a like. If you made it this far, I think it's fair to say you might as well subscribe. And don't forget the sub buttons, friend, that little bell. Just go right ahead and give them a click. Respect. Until next time, guys. Bhankai.